Hey friends, it's Jamie from Independent Street Tarot, and we are here to learn about this full moon that's happening on May 31st. In this video, we're going to talk about the influences that are going around right now, or we're feeling astrologically, and then I'm going to pull a card and see how that is going to help us get us through. So actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull the card now, and then we'll look at it at the end to give us some guidance on how to work with these full moon energies. So let's do that real fast. Okay, we got our card. Oop, did you see it? I didn't see it. Okay, we'll see. So this full moon that is happening on May 31st, it's going to be exact, I think, at like around 3:45 in the morning for here in New Orleans. The moon is going to be in Sagittarius, and the sun is in Gemini, because we are in Gemini season, and it's going to be at 9 degrees of both signs, which is in these early degrees. So that would be at the very last degree of that page energy that I talk about. The way that I read astrology and working with the tarot. So it's really optimistic. It's really young. It is. I don't think naive is a good word, but it is optimistic. The first 10 degrees to me of optimism. So it's at 9 degrees in 55 minutes, I believe. So it's about to move into knighthood. When the moon is full, that is when it's in conversation with the sun, right? So the sun and the moon are in deep conversations twice in a moon phase. At the dark moon, when they are together, that's when our masculine and feminine are together. And then at the full moon phase, when the moon is reflecting the sun's rays. And so it gives us that time to look at the big picture, because they are opposite of each other. So, you know, we see the sun as our masculine. It's sitting in Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is communication, and our moon is opposite over in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is also known as Zeus, king of the gods, right? But it's also that idea of expanding. So right now we're communicating on what it is that we want to expand. And this is really important. You know, Sagittarius is known as the adventurer, right? The philosopher. And its opposite sign is Gemini, which is communication. And I think we need to kind of lean into that right now. So the idea that new things are coming up, the way that we talk about things are going to be different. And we have to remember, the reason I say this too is because Uranus is in Gemini. Uranus rules Aquarius. Aquarius is fixed air. Gemini is mutable air. And it's bringing in these new truths. It's bringing in the revolution, right? Uranus is here to bring us back into balance. That's why it happens quickly. Uranus gets the information from the cosmos. And if things are out of balance in your life right now, things are going to be happening quickly to get them back into balance. And that's really important, especially right now, because it seems like everything is out of balance. But there's going to be some main themes about this. And I want to stress too, the way that these themes work with you are going to be more personal, you know, because we are in this age of Aquarius, and Aquarius is about the individual. You know, before we would talk about the collective conscious, and there still is the collective conscious, because we are a collective and we do have a conscious. But the idea that it's going to, you know, when people wake up, there can be mass awakenings, but when it happens to you, it happens to you, right? The way you think about something differently, that minute you get that aha, right? The way you communicate it to yourself differently. Maybe you listen to different things. Maybe you are open to new ideas, right? And Sagittarius, where the moon is going to make us think about that, right? Maybe we'll look in other places. Maybe we'll see how, you know, Sagittarius at its highest vibe is live and let live. And Sagittarius likes to roam around, see how other people live, see how they can bring it back to themselves, integrate it. If they see like, oh, that's really cool, maybe I can do that too, you know? But at the end of the day, if not, all right, cool, live and let live. You're not hurting anybody, I'm not hurting anybody, let's keep going on, right? I always say lower Sagittarius is very sarcastic and opinionated, right? And so we need to see where we're falling in that energy when it's time for this full moon. You know, if we're using blanket statements like every fill in the blank, we're here because of this, you know, we need to be aware of what we're thinking to ourselves and what we are saying to ourselves, because while there are main themes, okay, there are, but there's also a lot of nuance when it comes to how we're going to be moving forward, you know, how we work with our own moral compass, right? How people change their minds, how people learn new things, how people think about things differently, how people communicate things differently, not only to themselves, but to others, right? And the sun in Gemini at 9 degrees, maybe being optimistic, maybe, you know, I don't want to use the word naive. Someone needs to give me a better word, naive. But like, you know, and I could use the word naive in thinking that, you know, what we were first seeing or what we were first learning was really all about it that way. You know, oh, it was just this blanket statement, this, you know. But then learning, oh, no, it goes deeper than that. It goes more than that. There's way more information than we could have ever imagined, right? It's not just, okay? In just in both ways, like just as in justice, but just as in absolute, right? And so the moon, which represents our feminine side, is looking at the whole picture, being in Sagittarius, learning, philosophizing, I guess is the right word, seeing where, you know, people can make inroads, seeing where people can get along, seeing where people don't get along, into the idea of how we communicate that to ourselves. What else do we want to learn? Both of these signs are, well, both of them are mutable, obviously, but they're both about learning. They're both about communicating. They're both about expanding knowledge, right? And especially with Uranus in Gemini, bringing in more information, right? And so this, I would say this full moon is also making us look at where we've been staying small, you know, where we've been sticking to the same storyline, you know, where we're not allowing ourselves to expand, where we're not allowing ourselves to learn more, where we're not allowing ourselves to see what works, because a lot of times we're so focused on what doesn't work, especially here in America, which is okay, you know, it's okay. We really need to discuss what doesn't work so we can 100% move towards what does work. And, you know, a lot of astrologers, I would say, you know, are talking about the end of this illusion, right? The illusion. And that's one thing that Uranus is really good of. It's like that tower moment in the Tarot. That lightning bolt comes out of nowhere and it strikes you down. And guess what? It's going to put things back into balance immediately. It's going to cut through all the BS, you know, so people can start seeing things differently. People can start learning things differently. And, you know, the way that I read this is always on that higher vibration. So people can, you know, wake up to make their lives better, to make their lives more in balance, to see what it is that they want to learn. And again, lower Sagittarius would be very judgmental, very sarcastic, you know, and I would say like lower Gemini is that idea of not making decision, talking out of both sides of your mouth, not having a good moral compass, not being, I would even say like not being aligned, you know, Gemini likes to be aligned. There's two of them there, right? If you get those two twins working in the same direction, that's a lot of energy to go, right? And so be aware of that. The one, and this is a, I know they're all big, right? And this one though, but this one has like 3 grand trines and a grand square. Like this is a lot of energy for this full moon. Allow it to happen. Things are going to be happening quickly. And that's how it's supposed to be. To keep moving us, to get us back into alignment with ourselves, right? Because we are in this age of Aquarius. It is about the individual first and then the collective. But it is about good communication. It is about learning things new. It is about maybe looking at your community around you, seeing where you can help, seeing maybe where you weren't involved and you want to be involved, right? Maybe seeing where you're too involved and you need to scale it back, right? Lower Sagittarius is saying yes to everything, yes to this, and then being overwhelmed, right? And we don't want to be overwhelmed. We want to find that balance of where we are between good communication, learning, speaking, volunteering, showing up. Again, Sagittarius likes to adventure. And so maybe look at your schedule, see where you want to show up, see where you want to scale back, see where you could be of service, see where you can learn something new, right? This is going to be, because in the age of Aquarius, right, because Aquarius does like community, and we'll be talking about this for the next 2,500 years, so settle in. But it's how we can start building community, right? It's how we can be, quote unquote, better in our community, how we can make safer communities, how we can make more inclusive communities. And it doesn't have to be like this, crazy way out there plan, it's just this idea that this is a structured, safe place, right? Saturn wants structure. Saturn is in Aries, right? Neptune is in Aries, showing up, dreams, the unconscious coming conscious, moving that forward with Aries in that I am presence. There has to be some sort of structure, okay? Going back to this full moon in Sagittarius, you can't just keep getting fed the same bullshit and blowing it up. There's no structure, there's nothing behind it, there's no evidence, as they would say, because Gemini is going to bring in evidence. Gemini is going to bring in logic, right? Gemini is going to bring in critical thinking, right? It just can't be these blanket statements. It can't just be like all or nothing. It can't just be complete gaslighting and deflection, right? We're moving away from that. We're moving more into ourselves. What is it that I believe? What is it that I'm okay with? Where can I have empathy? Where can I have compassion, right? And where you find that empathy and compassion might be in a gray area. Other people might not be happy with you because you're finding compassion and opening roads to others where they might not like that because they're still in a blanket statement. They're still in an all or nothing. They aren't there yet, right? And the whole thing about these signs and the astrology and the planets, I always say they are here to help us meet the moment. And we are in a big moment for society and for ourselves and for our communities. And, it's going to come in how it's going to help us best. And even at the time, if it seems a little rocky, it is important to understand this is moving us to our highest and greatest good, as we talk about. Uranus and Gemini, because it's going to be in there for 7 years, is going to keep, shaking things up so we can get balanced. It's going to put us in that energy of realignment. In this full moon, her eyes are wide open, everything's illuminated. This is helping us see the bigger picture, right? This is helping us see where it is that we want to, where we need to, honestly, change direction. What we need to really look and see what's not working in our lives so we can become better adventurers. We can become better communicators. We can understand why safe spaces are so important, not only for ourselves, but for others. And it's okay for us to feel safe. It's okay for us to feel abundant, right? It's okay for us to, it's okay for us to feel overwhelmed, right? But the idea is trying to reel back in that overwhelm. And you guys look and see where you do feel overwhelmed. I was talking to a client this morning and she was like, I can't make a decision because she was just overwhelmed. And these weren't life and death decisions. It was literally like, who do I call first? But once you kind of get into that overwhelm and you see you're not moving, okay, reach out to a friend and just be like, what should I do first? Okay. And they will say, oh, just do this. Okay. We need a gentle push in the right direction, right? Overwhelm is real, okay? Thinking too much because the sun is in Gemini is real, right? That moon in Sagittarius could be a lot of emotion. You know, your emotions could be overwhelming you. You could also be ready to move forward in different areas of your life, different ways of feeling, different ways of being. But the idea is try to find that balance. The one other thing I'm going to talk about before we get to our card, because the sun and the moon are in lots of aspects with different planets, is that the moon is in a quincunx with Mars, who's in Taurus, and Venus, who's in Cancer. And I feel like this placement is important because when planets are in a quincunx with each other, there's no resolve at that time. It doesn't mean there never is going to be a resolve, but at the time of the quincunx, there's no resolve. It's just sort of like, this is where things are right now. And the fact that Sagittarius, who's that philosopher where the moon is in a quincunx with Mars, who's in Taurus. Mars doesn't move, extremely fast through Taurus. It knows how to set a pace because Mars is movement. But because Taurus is fixed Earth, it's probably going to be thinking about, the finer things, as they say, right? But it could also be thinking about, how do we help Mother Earth, right? What are the seeds that I want to plant? How can I move forward? Just like my friend this morning, I don't know what to do first, right? And so understanding that just because you make those decisions, this is what you're making these decisions for today, right? Being present. Okay, this is what's being shown to me now. This is what I got to work with now. Okay, how do I move forward with this now? Especially when it comes to things like the home. We were talking about our home. But if you want to move, right? If you want to settle down, if these big life-changing events are happening, and you're not sure where to go, or how to move through it, understand the moon's in a quincunx with Mars. So you might not get all the answers really quickly. You might have to think about it differently. You're going to have to communicate with yourself differently. Because remember, the sun is reflecting off the moon. So there's that energy as well to be shown. And then the idea too that in that masculine energy, right? Mars sitting in Taurus, the masculine energy of the sun sitting in Gemini, you might be thinking a lot of things, but not moving quickly. That quincunx with Venus and Cancer, Cancer is cardinal water. It's how we initiate. It's how we move forward, but with the home. What is it that we want to nurture? And if we're overwhelmed right now, we might not know what we want to nurture first. We might not know the best direction to go. We might not know, especially because we're learning new things are coming up. So maybe your home does look different. Maybe you see yourself different, Maybe you always saw yourself as this identity, and all these things are changing really fast, and now you don't have that identity anymore. So now who are you? How do you move through this, right? Oh God, Mars is over there hanging out in Taurus, laying in the grass, breathing in the fresh air. There's nothing moving us. There's no urgency, right? So be okay with that. Your mind might be moving a lot because that sun's in Gemini. Mars isn't moving too fast. He's kind of taking the time, reevaluating. Venus in Cancer. I know, now I'm starting to stress out. Maybe she's still in Cancer. She's still in Cancer. If not, I'll put it in the notes because I'm not starting this video over. I can tell you that right now. The idea, though, is the quincunx. If you're not coming to, this is it, I got it, I'm moving forward, it's still kind of up in the air, I'm not real sure how to move, be okay with that. That's where you're at, Gemini is going to make you want to be a little logical, right? Get some more facts, what do you call it? Sagittarius is going to make you maybe call up some people, get some more facts. Think about why do they think this? You know, it is Sagittarius usually likes to be very what do you call it? Not only vocal, but like, you know, interview people. Okay, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about that? You know, and then you can make those decisions. This full moon here is to illuminate how we're changing, how we're moving forward. These mutable signs hold space for us and order us to change and move. Okay, let's pull our card. Okay, this is kind of funny, but very important. We got the Nine of Swords, okay? So this is the Nine of Swords. This came up. This is going to help us navigate with this full moon. And the idea with this is if you are stuck in the past, okay, and you're thinking about, man, I should have done this, I should have done that, that's not going to help you where to go and how to move forward. You know, and I can think about this in a million different ways about, man, I wish I hadn't have done that. Man, I wish I hadn't done that, you know, to like maybe how you voted in the last presidential election, to other things, right? And the idea is you learn your lesson and you move forward. You know, you see what you can do now in order to change things, right? You get involved in different ways. You meet new people, right? That's the Sagittarius themes. Go meet new people. See how they change. See how they do things differently. Because the idea is about being present and starting now. How do you communicate? What was it that you? How do you communicate to yourself now to get you out of anxiety? You know, this is Swords energy. So this is about being mental. This is about you know, how you talk to yourself. What are some new ways? I know for my moon school, I put in. Sheila did a chakra meditation, you know, and so I put it on the moon school page so people can do this meditation so they can get grounded. It's a quick meditation. So, because the idea is like learning how to talk to yourself differently, learning new tools to bring into your life in order for you to move forward. Because we can't hang on to the old ways, and I mean that. And now that I mean in a fucking blanket statement for sure. The old ways are moving away so quickly, and they're getting more and more and more antiquated. You know, and it's becoming very clear how people are trying to keep people down, right? Well, the Sagittarius energy isn't going to allow that to happen, okay? Uranus and Gemini isn't going to allow that to happen, right? It's too bubbly, it's too dynamic. Okay, it's too, well, again, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. It's too big, right? And Jupiter is still in Cancer. So the way that we see home, the way we want to expand our home is all going to be changing. It's going to be changing the way we speak about it, the way we feel about it. But it's very important to make sure, because Jupiter expands, the moon is in Sagittarius, we don't get overwhelmed. We bring things back into balance. The things that are overwhelming us most likely will get rocked by Uranus, okay? And you know, a lot of times when people talk about Uranus, it's always like, what could it be? And you know what? Don't waste your time on that shit. If it comes up, it's going to come up, right? You're going to know. You're going to be like, this kind of came out of nowhere, or this has kind of been building. And then you move from there. You know, you move from there. The thing about us bringing that the unconscious into conscious, right? That Neptune, which is the unconscious, bringing it into conscious, being in Aries, which is the self, right? If you don't know what it is that's keeping you out of balance, okay, you can't sit around and worry about it, right? The unconscious is going to become conscious. So you might as well, like, pay attention, live your life, right? And see what comes up. See what you're talking about. See where you're finding anxiety. See if you can change that. You know, there's a million different ways, healthy ways that we can change things to keep moving forward. If let's say you had maybe some addictions or something in the past, and they're starting to come back up, you know, reach out to people. see where you can get help. See what there are new things to do. You know, it might be more simple than it was in the past. But the idea, again, because I just want to kind of wrap this up, but the idea with this full moon, it's going to be showing us where we need to move forward, okay? How we can get back into community, where we're keeping ourselves small with the way that we're thinking, right? If you're still in anxiety, there's something that you're thinking about that's keeping you small, instead of allowing you to move forward and allowing you to adventure, allowing you to start new conversations, not only with yourself, but with others as well. Okay, friends, I'm going to leave it there. If you need to reach out to me, you can on Instagram and YouTube, my website, independentstreettarot.com. I will put down in the notes below if Venus has moved out of Cancer, but I think she's finishing up her time there. So I hope you guys do have a beautiful full moon. It's going to be dynamic. It is here to push us forward. If you guys need help or would like to talk about it, like a tarot reading or astrology reading, please don't hesitate to reach out.